What's up, chat? How's it going, everybody? It is Tuesday. We are getting tactical. What's up? Nice to see you. I didn't have this event posted earlier. I thought I did. I made a thumbnail for it and everything, and I forgot to click post on my go live thing. So that sucks. Hopefully people get notified that this stream is live. But otherwise, we got some fun stuff to talk about today. Deathwatch. Getting some new rules at some point. It sounds like it's not going to be until the next balance update after this coming balance update, so that's going to be a while, but at the very least, we are getting new rules for them. That's exciting. We had some majors and super major level events go down this week. Yesterday on the Monday show, we talked about largely team events. We talked about Art of War winning the first ever DreamHack Open event, not the DreamHack Invitational. They also win the DreamHack Invitational, so they're just killing it in terms of National Tabletop League 8-player team events. But we talked about that. But today we want to talk about a little bit some singles events. We did have a major level, or I guess maybe bigger than a major level event, go down, the Hanseatic Alliance Open. We also had Cascade Clash go down, so we have some lists that we can talk about from those. And yeah, that's what's going on. So yeah, I think we'll just dive into it. The big news, and this isn't like super breaking or anything. I think that this did the rounds over the weekend. This post from Facebook, according to the Warhammer 40,000 official Facebook page, the studio is working on a digital update to take Deathwatch armies back to games of Warhammer 40,000. I think they saw the response to the Imperial Agents Codex and were like, people less excited about Xenos Hunters than they are Deathwatch Space Marine Chapter. So we'll see how that works. It sounds like we're not getting it until December. I feel like that's probably going to end up being in the... it says December. I imagine it's Q1 25. I imagine it's going to be January, and it's going to be alongside the January update that we get after this coming update. No word on that one, by the way, although the Tampa U.S. Open did get canceled. There were some people speculating that it was getting weighted. It was going to be posted after the Tampa USO. Now that's been canceled because of Hurricane, what is it called? Hurricane Milton or something? Florida's about to be absolutely hammered by that hurricane starting tomorrow, or Thursday, I think, actually, day after tomorrow. In any case, there is a possibility that we see that update happen this week. That's what I'm crossing my fingers for. It could be next week, but man, that would be a long time. We'd be going on 4 months there without updates, which, to be fair, is not the first time that's ever happened, but it would make me pretty sad if it did end up being the case. So yeah, I don't know how this Deathwatch update's gonna look. I kind of imagine that I have a sneaking suspicion that it looks like the Emperor's Children Index, which would be a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. Just being like, you can choose Deathwatch as your chapter keyword. If you do, you can take Deathwatch veterans. I have a sneaking suspicion that's probably how it's gonna look. But there is the possibility that we get like maybe an updated version of Black Spear Task Force back. If we do, I imagine it's not quite the same as the old OG Black Spear Task Force, which had, Tome of the Ectoclades and all that other insane stuff going on in it. But I would be mentally prepared. If I was a Deathwatch stan, I would be mentally prepared to be Emperor's Childrenized, where your entire faction boils down to like one data sheet and a little like tiny index entry. It's better than literally just being like a detachment in another faction that's really bad, but it's not quite as exciting. I don't know how exciting it'll be. We'll see. We'll see how it is. We'll see how it does. 4 years without updates. Remember when it was 2 years? Yeah, thank God we're not playing OG 40K. But the thing about the OG editions, right? You're like, back in my day, you got a codex every 2 editions, and you're like, yeah, that's fair. But also, like back in OG like 4th edition, there were like never any balance updates. everything was broken, but also there wasn't really like competition, right? Like what else were you gonna do? Whereas nowadays, people will just straight up get fed to other games. I think if they don't see enough updates, which is a little bit more dangerous for GW than otherwise. Need to unlegend some units. We'll see if that ends up happening. It feels like they're quick on the legend hammer this edition, so I think we might see more stuff get legended. I don't know if we're necessarily going to see stuff come off the legend roster, but we'll see how it goes. It would be nice to see OG kill teams and stuff back, but I have a sneaking suspicion that they probably axe like the mixed unit profiles. Like the old Deathwatch, Proteus kill teams and stuff, I imagine go the way of the dodo. And those were weird to begin with because a lot of times they were mixes of units that didn't really come in those model counts, which is something that Games Workshop is really trying to steer away from. But again, like I say, I think I would expect to see a very, very limited release for Deathwatch coming in. They better not legend Hacken, Strachan, and Harker. Yeah, that's the other scuttlebutt for Astra Militarum. We're seeing a lot of Astra Militarum stuff leave the web store, which is getting people a little worried. Oh no. I hope Strachan doesn't get cut. That dude rules, but that's probably because he's unironically kind of broken. My hope is that we get. I mean, it's not going to happen, right? They stated their intention to make this update or the next codex for Astra Militarum be like Death Core of Krieg focused, and I imagine that I would love to see a universe where we get like a Catachin boxed set, where it's like either like a combo kit or a couple plastic kits. You get a new Catachin Jungle Fighters box because those dudes are fugly. Those are I for sure have to be some of, if not literally the oldest plastics in the range. Let's take a peek at their web store entry because they are horrible, and it's something that Games Workshop has proven to be capable of recreating now with updated aesthetics and look pretty good. But these models, man, oh my god. Look at this man in the front here and his big bug eyes. They are so bad. It is like inexcusable, and it's insane that they're still in the range right now. They just look horrible. And I like, not even from a Games Workshop standpoint, I would say, which tends to be higher quality than most miniature ranges, right? Like you pay a premium for Warhammer, but you do get some of the better looking models out in the miniature field. These are bad compared to, I think, anything. They're just not good. So it would be cool to see like a range revision for Catachins, where we get new jungle fighters. You get like a plastic character kit, maybe because there's a bunch of different Catachin characters. You maybe get a kit with all of them in it. There's like Slime Arbo, who does, I believe, have a kit, and I don't know if he will get re-updated because his is fairly recent, I think, unless it's gone. No, here he is, temporarily out of stock, online only. So you could put him back in there.
Watch Eldar get monkey pawed. They get 10 new kits but have 20 kits sent to Legends. Half their characters are fine at all metal lol.
Yeah, Eldar's going to be a trip for sure. Last edition they just hand waved it and we're like, fuck it, whatever, who cares? They might do that again. Oh, we'll make Behareth like the most inexcusably overpowered unit in the game for a while, but you can't buy his model. He doesn't exist. Yeah, we'll see. I'm excited because I hope Eldar get new models because their resculpts tend to be very cool. And it's like Malgan Ra, the new Malgan Ra is like gorgeous. Give us Phoenix Lords that are that level, and that would be cool. This marble model is resin. Yeah, resin model. That's old. That's old. It's so old. Yeah, so they'd probably... This is actually kind of a weird character. I don't know. He's like so derivative. Like Warhammer is generally pretty derivative, right? Like kind of across the board. But he's like, he wears it on his sleeve, or his lack of sleeves, I guess. This man is literally just Sylvester Stallone. That's why his name is Sly. Like, come on. He's still Sylvester. He's Sylvester Rambo, but we like switched up some of the letters. Just change some of the answers around so it doesn't look like we copied your homework, you know. I don't know. I know there's a lot of Sly Marbo stands out there, but I could see Sly Marbo go the way of the dodo, and I don't think I would shed a tear. But to even like to have a kit that has like a new Marbo, Harker, and Strachan, and it's like the Catachin character kit, would be sick. They already have a resculpted platoon squad, I believe. Can I see their command squad? Yeah, this one I think is relatively recent. This was like circa 8th edition, if I remember correctly. And then also the Ripper, who I don't know is in here. Ripper Jackson, is that her name? Nope. Is a super cool miniature too. Although that one's exclusive, I think that. So they probably aren't going to be... Oh, look at this little guy. Speaking of Rippers. Wait, why don't I have one of these? I have a Nurgling. I don't have this one. What? And he's like $20? I'm gonna buy this. I love him. Look at him. What? He's adorable. Tangent, but I love this guy. He will be my mascot anytime I play Tyranids. That's amazing. But yeah, there's like a bunch of characters that they could release. I would love to see them release a big like Catachin character kit would be cool. Although I don't know, we'll see if we get it, because it's gonna be Deathcore stuff. It's gonna be Deathcore pilled, and we'll get like plastic Death Riders or whatever probably. So I don't know. Oh, we'll see how it goes. Sounds like your car models. You can guess which models are good, but can I buy them? Is that true across the board? I bet there's some like real trash resins in there. Rumors getting a Warp Spider Phoenix Sword. That is Warp Spider Phoenix Sword would be cool. Although that's been like a piece of lore for, you know, since the dawn of time, right? That the Warp Spider Phoenix Sword is lost to the warp or whatever. It'd be interesting for them to come back. It feels like at some point Games Workshop has left enough like tidbits of like characters that you're supposed to sort of headcanon, that they then release later or they then explain away later. And it feels like at some point they're going to run out of those. And I think that the Warhammer mythos enters a crisis state once that happens. And the Warp Spider Phoenix Sword being one of them. You know, when the two lost Space Marine Legions get like name dropped, you know it's all over. we've plumbed every depth in the Warhammer universe. Once they're just like, well, oh, this one's it's the Legion of the Damned or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. We're not keeping that mystery. And the other one's the Blood Ravens. Oh, good. Thank you, Games Workshop. I appreciate that. Now there is no mystery left in the universe. And I think eventually we'll hit that point, because they do keep dropping stuff. And some of it's like the Primarch stuff too, right? Like eventually we'll go through the Primarchs, and those are big models, like they're big characters that you're supposed to I don't know, kind of headcanon away. What's Lehman Russ doing? What's he doing? I don't know. What's all the other guys who are alive? What are they doing? Soon we'll know, and then we'll put a cap on the number of new and impactful releases Warhammer is supposed to do. The two unknown chapters have been fighting off the Red Terror. Incredible. Should we talk about some lists, chat? I want to talk about some lists. My cat is irrepressibly assaulting my hand over here. Get up here, kitty. Come on. Chat wants to say hi. Meow. You gonna come up? Probably not. All right, well. So we have the Hanseatic Alliance Open went down this week. It was 200 players, 180, I think, 170 something. 190 was the final count. Went an insane 8 rounds, won by Leagues of Votann. Very exciting. Tim Schneider took it down. But we also saw some other big players. Kevin Zollinger. Oh my God, cat! Jesus Christ! All right, here you go. Oh, I'm gonna pick you up. Oh, hello, fuzzy baby. There you go. You can stop putting your claws on my pants. Matthias Bellman, Kevin Zollinger, Fred Otto from Breaking Heads also did very well with Thousand Suns. Very cool. We had some fairly standard lists in the top. Leagues of Votann winning it is like very, very cool. Especially with some pretty solid results too. We had Adeptus Sororitas at this like fucking ridiculous 100 points in the first 5 rounds. Literally didn't drop any differential points. Black Templars also in there, which tend to have, I don't know what it is, but they tend to have this this additional level of success in the European sort of metagame. I don't know why that ends up being. Maybe it's like a WTC sort of terrain standard. I don't know. Maybe it's just a player like player familiarity thing. But we definitely see way more Black Templars doing well over in Europe than we do over here in the US. Is GW going to copy paste the Thanos Snap Blast Spear detachment back to the Space Marine Codex? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. That would be cool. If they copy pasted just literally Black Spear Task Force, that would actually be kind of hype. But I have a suspicion that they won't. That thing gave you 2 full reroll as a moment back in the day, which I think was highly unintended. Yeah, so let's talk about some Oathband, some Leagues of Votann. Can I fucking help you, cat? Jesus Christ. Damn it. All right. She's on the back of the chair now. She's on her throne. He's running a Brokir Iron Master with a Praising Glare, an Einherjar Champion with Grim Demeanor, 2 units of, I almost said 5 Hearthkin Warriors, but that's not right. What's up? This is interesting. 2 10-mans of Chthonian Berserks, plus a Jaeger unit for infiltration. Please get off in front of my screen. So I wonder if we are putting these in land fortresses. It looks like we are. Here's a question that I'm sure a Leagues of Votann player in the chat could answer me, but that I don't know the answer to myself. Can you combat squad the Chthonian Berserks in a Sagittor? Not that you would want to, because you could just bring units of 5, but I actually have no idea. It would allow you to potentially get 4 units, or even up to 6 units, individual units of Chthonian Berserks. You can sort of beat your own field allowance. No, you can't. All right, we're just double checking here. It is literally called out that it is only Hearthkin Warriors. So these are for sure going into the land fortresses, these big Chthonian Berserk units, which is definitely, I mean, it's classic to have the melee unit inside the Hecaton. The Hecaton wants to sort of absorb the middle of the table. And then you have to overcommit to kill them because they can void armor and they have a million wounds and a strong armor save. Once you do that, the Chthonian Berserks just kill you, and you're almost certainly judgment tokened at that point, especially between those guys and a Praising Glare as well, granting those additional judgment tokens off of objectives. We then have 2 big units of Hernkin Pioneers. Looks like 6 Hernkin Pioneers in each of those. Plus 3 Sagittors, which are carrying around the Hearthkin Warriors. Interesting as well that you can't even split the Jaegers inside the Sagittors. It's literally only Hearthkin Warriors. So those are the only legal embarkations that we have. Unless the Iron Master could go into one, which I believe he can. So we could split out 2 Hearthkin Warrior units into 5s, and then to give us 4 units of 5, you put half of each of one squad into the Sagittor, and then take the last one up with the character, which often happens, to give you an additional sort of utility unit. Pretty cool. Little scout-focused action going on from this one, but very melee pilled, which I think is pretty effective. Unless you're like pushing for the big Einhir Hearthguard bricks, the melee profiles of Leagues of Votann are kind of insane. Yeah, Inky doesn't give a shit for sure. But congratulations to Tim Schneider going all the way with Leagues of Votann. That's super cool. We got a little bit of Astra Militarum hanging out over here too. Bastion Cry, making his opponents cry, I assume. With Gaunt's Ghosts, Lord Solar Leontis, a Tempestus command squad. I got Inky's hair in my mouth now. Plus a platoon command squad for Lord Solar and a tank commander. Triple Catachan Jungle Fighters. Triple Bullgren. That's 15, it looks like, in total. 2 Limit Rush Demolishers and a Vanquisher. No Eradicators, actually, which is interesting. But they're just the classic Demolishers. We're just firing big Demolisher cannon shots at people, which is pretty solid. 1 big unit of Scout Sentinels. This is, it seems like, has been creeping into basically every single Militarum list. It's either the Scouts or the Armored. But as we talked about on yesterday's show, it's basically another Lehman Russ worth of damage output that you also get to reinforce when you want to, and can also be ordered by your infantry commanders. You don't have to order them with the tank commanders because they also get regiment keyword. So they're just like hyper efficient. It makes you wonder if you could... I guess they're probably not survivable enough. They do have a boatload of wounds, because I think the Armored Sentinel unit is 21 in total. Not that you really care that much about each individual Sentinel. You want all of them or none of them, basically, to be on the table. It almost makes you wonder if you could just spam a bunch of those things. But I guess the one unit is good because it gets the Hunter-Killer missile shots, and then it dies and shoots them again. But the other units don't do that, so it's less exciting. I'm talking my way out of it. I understand why you don't do that. Having a Lehman Russ is usually better. Then we also have, it looks like a big 10-man of Tempestus Scions for the command squad to go into. Pretty cool that these guys are just like a little bit of a nuclear missile. Just drop them in and clear an objective and call it a day for 100. What are they? 170 points or whatever. 170 points. Yeah, they're super solid. Plus we have a command rod on this guy too. So if he jumps in alongside the ghosts, I believe you could double order them. Between Lord Solar and Ibram Gaunt's orders, because he can order a regiment unit or himself. So then you could get +1 to hit and +1 attack on your rapid fires, and you're shooting 9 sustained hit plasma gun shots on hitting on 2s with full rerolls, so you get to fish. Pretty good. Pretty good, chat. I do want to talk about some Chaos Demons. Grisha Gevert went, 6-1-1 with Chaos Demons, and I will take every opportunity I can to talk about Chaos Demons because they're cool. I actually did some painting yesterday, chat. I had a local of mine, a friend came over, and we did a painting day because I want to paint my demon army by next month. I've got a live stream game scheduled, and I want to have a fully painted army. It looks really good, but fuck me, this would take a long time. Holy shit. And that was like my whole day yesterday. It was just painting one Be'lakor. My Be'lakor's almost done. The scouts are also 21 wounds. They're 7 each. Armored Sentinels are really a base 2+ save? That's insane. I guess it's the same as a Chimera, which is just like sort of Militarum, the Militarum deal. They used to be a 3-up save, and they were Armor of Contempted all the time, I think, was their thing back in the day. Or is it like -1, +1 save against 1 damage weapons or whatever? The Armored do get full wound rerolls against monstrous vehicles, which is cool. It's actually like hyper efficient. Hot damn. You do so much damage. So we're rocking a Bloodmaster, a Bloodthirster, the Great Unclean One, Lord of Change, Rendmaster on Blood Throne, Blue Scribes. So the Bloodmaster is just the little infantry character for Bloodletters, who gives them +1 to wound, which is kind of nice. He's also, all of the Khorne, like, foot infantry have kind of sick offensive profiles. They're like strength 6, AP 3 damage. And with +1 to wound, he's wounding everything on 4s or 5s with rerolls baked in from the Bloodletters themselves. So he actually kind of goes insane. Definitely a lot of additional play there. I think that you probably see a lot more play with the Khorne characters if their attachment unit wasn't so expensive. Bloodletters feel a little overcosted for their output, but they are very good still. Bloodthirster with Argath, a Great Unclean One, an Everstave Lord of Change, and a Rendmaster to give up give the +1 strength, AP, and damage, plus a Blue Scribes unit. One Bloodletting unit for the Bloodmaster to go into, an Ugly Swarm, and a Plaguebearer unit for some locking objectives, and then a bunch of different stuff. 6 Blood Crushers, 1 unit of Fleshhounds, 1 unit of Plague Drones. There's a little discussion in the comment section actually of my Demon video. I didn't really talk about Plague Drones, but they do give you wound rerolls on Nurgle units. So like they're the second payoff alongside Epidemius for the big Nurgle, like the mass Nurgle lists. Which is pretty sweet. It makes you, especially alongside the toughness debuffs, you can actually get Great and Clean Ones to hit like kind of hard. The downside is they're kind of low AP, and the Plague Drones themselves are relatively large and not cheap, but they're also, for their cost, their defensive profile is kind of insane. I believe that they are T7, 5 wounds each for 33 points a model. Eat your heart out, like Terminators. Get fucking wrecked. Although they only have, I think they are just a 5-up armor and invuln, if I remember correctly. Go. Go. Do it. It's dead. Just kidding, Wahapedia. Oh, there it goes. Jesus Christ. 6-up armor, excuse me. 6-up armor, 5-up invuln. Oh, T8. Look at me go. T8, 5 wounds apiece for 33 points a model. Kind of nutty, to be honest. Just like a ridiculous defensive skew that also gives you a buff. It's a little weird that they're this unit that you kind of want to use as a frontline, but then also it gives you this like super powerful utility effect. It is also a little bit inconsistent because it only works with their shooting attack, which is D3 shots, ballistic skill 4. So there's literally no guarantee that you'll get that effect off. But if you do, it obviously is super strong if you have more than a couple of Nurgle units. We also have double Seekers to take up the middle of the table too. Pretty interesting. Basically cavalry tribal almost over here. Or excuse me, kindred. We had a talk in the Discord about the renaming there a couple weeks ago. Double Seekers, Plague Drones, and Blood Crushers. Basically all of the cavalry units. Plus 3 big guys and some characters. Pretty sweet. Kind of a unique list, honestly. Not all in on the Greater Demons, who are definitely classy, but I see the consistency in taking the smaller stuff for sure. Yeah, Beast of Nurgle also great for sure. Yeah, they're just they're not as good in a kind of army support capacity though. They're mostly just there to like just absorb attacks forever. You like deep strike them in your opponent's backline, and there's literally no chance that they ever die. They'll just stand around forever because you have to dedicate so much firepower to kill them, and otherwise they'll just heal back up to full. Caillou went 6-2 with Tyranids at this event. Kind of exciting. It is Synaptic Nexus with the Swarmlord. Okay. Swarmlord, Hive Tyrant, Narrow Tyrant. No Power of the Hivemind on the Narrow Tyrant. Makes me sad. That feels like one of the biggest payoffs for taking that guy. I had a conversation with Sam Pope at the New England Invitational, the New England Open Invitational, and he said one thing that he likes to do with his Narrow Tyrant is he puts the Power of the Hivemind on it, and then he plays it super aggressively. So he like deploys it literally on the line. it's hard enough to kill that it won't die to like random attacks. You have to dedicate some actual firepower to do it. And oftentimes you can set it up in a position where your opponent can attack it, but in doing so, they have to walk into the threat range of like your Tyrannifexes and stuff. So you can put it in a position where like the line of sight can be cut onto the Narrow Tyrant, but if you do so, the Tyrannifex can aim, and then things get really like scary. And the Tyrant gives you an out for a turn 1 free strat, because if your opponent pushes super hard to try to screen you, which is the big downside of Synaptic Nexus, a lot of times you're focused on these huge monsters, these like really big synapse creatures, to use Armor of Contempt on, that just get like blocked in. You can free strat Overwatch on the Neuro Tyrant, and the Neuro Tyrant between the Overwatch and another attack should basically kill 10 infantry in the first battle round there by itself. Which I thought was pretty interesting. It feels way less good without Power of the Hive Mind though, because the Strength 5 AP1 Neuro Tyrant is not quite as good. It doesn't have the same level of threat to like a Scout Squad or a JPI Squad or even just like T3 infantry, to be honest. 1 Biovore, 1 Lictor, 1 Neurolictor, double Pyrovores, some Raveners. Look at this utility, damn. We have the Biovore for the maneuver stuff, a Lictor for forward operation, 2 Pyrovores, which are good with their gun and also just good as a action monkey, plus a Ravener unit. Some Zoanthropes, which is probably where the Neuro Tyrant is hanging out, and I guess basically can supplement its shooting in an Overwatch potentially. 1 Psychophage, backing up 2 Tyrannofexes, plus double Maliceptors and a Moloch. This list feels so low to the ground, but I have to remember that there's 500 points in Hive Tyrants, and I fucking love the double Hive Tyrant. It's so cool, and it feels so powerful when you use it, but it's so hard to get those guys into the fight. And that's always the problem that I have with this list, is that they're so slow, and they only have 10 wounds. So even through Armor of Contempt, they can still get killed. You have to have, I think, really good terrain that can set them up in like an aggressive position where they're not in line of sight, but can still get a charge onto people. It feels very tough. Unless you're like really threat overloading, and this list does a little bit, but I don't know how much like 2 Tyrannifexes are going to stand up against an enemy army and protect the 2 Hive Tyrants standing behind them. Still went well though. Kai is clearly a better player, a better Tyranid general than I am. So, what am I talking about over here? We also got some Imperial Knights at 6 and 2. Rockin' Canis Rex, a Cerastus Atropos with Mysterious Guardian. Love that on the Atropos. Plus a Lancer. Double Helverin, double Warglaive, Calidus Assassin. Pretty simple stuff. The Guardian Atropos is like so sick though. You always want to push that guy super far, but not always in the position to do it. A lot of times it was like you could play Mysterious Guardian on one of the dedicated range platforms, but then they end up getting like overextended and engaged, and they don't do anything in melee, and then you're sad. A little bit of Admech too over here at 6 and 2. Philip Mueller, where are you rocking? And we talked yesterday about how Admech had a great weekend this week, by the way. They were, I think, had the most undefeated results in tournaments out of the weekend, which is huge. Rockin' Skitari Hunter cohort, triple Skitari Marshal. Only 1 Battlesphere uplink is the only enhancement. There's just 6 Vanguard units. Yeah, just 60 Vanguard. Easy. Plus triple Scorpius Dune Riders for those guys. 2 Tyraxi Skystalkers, 20 Tyraxi Sterilizers, 2 units of 10. Oh, excuse me. A Cerberus Raider unit. Double Infiltrators, triple Scorpius Dune Riders. No Rust Stalkers at all. We left them at home. We're just filling the void with Vanguard. It seems like everyone's on the triple Scorpius Disintegrator train though, which, as we talked about before, definitely makes sense. The Scorpius Disintegrator seems incredible, actually. It's weird. I don't know if it's weird. I guess it's just like a faction that doesn't have a huge play rate, but it feels like this wasn't really like exploited technology until like 2 weeks ago or so. That was when we started to see it do well, the triple disintegrator. But for, you know, basically the entire Pariah season, Adeptus Mechanicus have been struggling a little bit, and very few of them have been taking disintegrators. But it feels like that was like the secret piece of technology that they needed the whole time. The faction was like, we can't kill anything, everything sucks. And then they're like, what if you got +1 ballistic skill and you can just use it on this thing that shoots 6 las cannons? Like, okay, that seems pretty good, thank you. Plus it has 3 Cognitus Heavy Stubbers, so it shoots 18 anti-infantry shots too. Seems good to me, chat. Seems good to me. No wonder they're 175 points. It looks like a really high number. Looking at those guys, and you can start to compare them to like, they're like more expensive than a Gladiator Lancer. So you start to compare them to, what's another like ranged weapon platform that's in like the high hundreds, like a Tyrannifex almost, right? It's 15 points off. And that thing's like 18 wounds, or with a damage blank and a bunch of stuff going on. And it feels like they're too expensive, but once you keep in mind that they're +1 ballistic skill almost all the time, especially with the Cantic Thrallnet involved, so that you can switch the doctrines a little bit more freely, and a trillion shots, it like, oh crap, actually it makes some total sense. The Forge Fiend? Yeah, the Forge Fiend's actually probably the direct comparison, right? Forge Friend. I literally wrote down Forge Friend. What a fucking moron. Because they're 3d3. They're basically 6 lower value shots, but they have devastating and dark pacts. Their defensive profile is like almost identical, and they're like a little slower for 190. Yeah. So the Forge Fiend is 15 points more. Shoots the same number of attacks, but the Forge Fiend's attacks are like have devastating, but are actually like statistically worse. Although they have extra special rules like baked on top. Which makes you think, chat. I don't know. Good stuff. Well, I think we had some interesting results from Hanseatic Alliance Open. It seems like there was a lot of Astra Militarum in the top here. And there's a lot of Space Wolves I'm noticing. Jan Reinsauer running Blood Angels. This is interesting. It's Animander. I haven't seen him in a while, which is cool. All right. Where did my thing go? We had some more event results to take a peek at, and now I can't find my list of them. Oh no, did I close it like a goober? No, I didn't. I know what's up. So another event that I had not taken a peek at was Cascade Clash, because I think that when I took down lists on Sunday for the Monday video, this event was not done. The West Coast events actually I tend to miss occasionally because a lot of times they don't complete before I like put all my stuff together. If they're a 6-round event and they complete late, they oftentimes end at like midnight my time, and I just miss them. Which I think happened. So that was almost major level, 82 players. And I think that we covered most of this stuff yesterday. So let's take a quick peek at it. Let's take a quick peek at the Cascade Clash. And then if anybody has any events that they want to take a look at, let me know. Oh, we got some Tyranids going on. Stephen Ross over here with Necrons at number 2. That's Zex from the Discord, who's also maybe in the chat as well, so we can take a peek at his list too. Jaden Iwasa took it down with a Stormlands Task Force. Looks like kind of normal Stormlands Task Force things though, so it's less exciting. Oh man, look at all this Thunderwolf Cavalry. That's crazy. That's so many Thunderwolf Cavalry. Wow. Oh my god. Insane. Good stuff. Congratulations. That's definitely a list. Necrons over here rocking Awakened Dynasty. With a good list name, too. Just nailing it right now. Awakened Dynasty. So that's the index detachment, which I actually haven't seen that much of. But it does play occasionally as a bit of a skew, like a defense skew. Because sometimes you just win with it because your opponent doesn't have the capacity to one-shot your units. And especially if you are like rocking a lot of like anti big stuff technology, a lot of people don't have the like output anymore to kill an entire Awakened Dynasty unit, and then they all come back. They just reactive reanimate and then drop their reanimate and drop a Resurrection Orb, and everybody's back with +1 wound. We've got a Hexmark Destroyer, Illuminor Seraz, an Overlord, a Scorpic Lord with a Dermal Bond. It's a 4+ Feel No Pain if I remember correctly. Plus another Scorpic Lord, plus a third Scorpic Lord. This is a Walter Langendorf classic right here from the Pro Tabletop team, rocking the mass Scorpic Lords. These guys, it's actually been a while since we talked about Scorpic Lords, but they have a. Let's grab their data sheet real quick. They have a Mortal Wound, an Impact Attack Mortal Wound, which I believe is end of charge, but it might be a start of fight. It is. This isn't what I clicked on, but thank you, game. That's the regular Scorpic Destroyer unit. Where's the Lord? Here he is. Yeah, it is end of charge move. It's on a 2+, you take D3. On a 6, you take D3 +3. So basically, bare minimum, you're averaging like 2.5 or so mortal wounds. I guess 3-ish mortal wounds. Between sometimes failing and sometimes doing like double damage, or 2.5 times damage. It's a lot, and then you're also delivering Scorpic Destroyers, which are then using their once per game devastating. You're getting hit rerolls on those guys, and these dudes do have 4 strength 10 AP3 3 damage attacks as well, with potentially devastating wounds on top of that. They have a little bit of weird anti-synergy. They give you lethal hits, which is good with the Scorpic Destroyer's rerolls, and also +1 to hit from the detachment ability, because they're now a lead unit. But the downside is that you don't get your devastating wounds when you lethal hit, which is a little bit of anti-synergy. Thank you, Necron Codex, but still good. Being able to get these big like AP2 2 damage hits through, so it's at relatively low strength, but being able to full reroll to try to get those lethals is pretty solid. And then also you're like already doing mortals. So the 2 Scorpic Lords together is like probably good for 5 or so mortal wounds. Plus you're also attacking with a bunch of these like lethal hits, strength 10, AP3 3 damage. So 2 Scorpic Lords together will down like most sort of monstrous vehicles in the game. And then if you're also combining that with shooting and with some other stuff, you can actually sort of finish off a lot of big things with these guys with their powers combined. We have a Technomancer with Netherrealm, 2 Canoptic Reanimators. That's great. Canoptic Wraiths, which is also an important inclusion for the detachment as well, because that gives you another like big bulwark unit that's very difficult to be killed independently, and so you can get them down low and then use your reactive reanimation very sort of aggressively. Do we have a Technomancer for them? We do. Oh, we do. Yeah, we do. With I think the Netherrealm Casket is the renamed Cloak of Darkness. Is that right? Am I an insane person? They renamed all the stupid enhancements. I don't remember what they are. Or is it the stealth one? Is it the stealth one? No, that's something else, right? I feel so silly now. Because this is the classic detachment. Oh, it is the stealth one. Okay. Oh, Veil of Darkness did not get renamed. That's the one. That's the one. All right, fair enough. So we got the stealth guys. The Technomancer will also be then giving the Canoptic Wraiths +1 to hit himself. So they have like a comparable level of accuracy to Canoptic Court Wraiths. Plus, even if the downside of the Wraith unit is oftentimes you can get the Technomancer killed, and you can use Resurrection Protocols on him in that situation to bring him back into the unit, so that he doesn't necessarily die in real life, once he gets precisioned out. So Canoptic Wraiths have like a ton of synergy inside the detachment. Plus we've got some flayed ones for utility, a Locust Destroyer, more utility, triple Locust Heavy Destroyers. Okay. Hot damn. All right. Plus a big Lich Guard unit. There's the Scorpec Destroyers for the Scorpec Lords. Who's going in that Lich Guard unit? There's an Overlord with a Veil of Darkness. So I imagine that's what it is. So we can teleport those guys up to the middle of the table. And that should be super tough to kill. Especially once if you can teleport them up and string them to a Canoptic Reanimator too. The amount of resurrection you get out of that unit is kind of crazy. And when you're talking about a unit that is already getting a 4+ invuln save and -1 to be wounded, on top of resurrecting reactively in your opponent's turn, can get pretty silly. That's cool! It's cool to see these Canoptic, Awakened Dynasty lists coming back. These were a mainstay for a hot minute, sort of at the beginning of towards the beginning of the year. You would basically always see, you would see either Canoptic Court Necrons. I guess like occasionally you saw Hypercrypt Legion, but it was a little bit rarer in team events. But a lot of times you would see Canoptic Court Necrons in order to skew out team pairing processes, because that was like a pretty high scoring and very consistent attachment that also just like a lot of armies couldn't deal with because they couldn't kill the wraiths. And this list, it was actually just like the hard counter. So you would end up angling for a Necron Mirror, and this list, I think just because of the Scorpec Destroyers and the amount of sustain that it has, whereas wraiths don't have very good damage output, so they get locked into a fight that they just lose out on attrition because the Awakened Dynasty is resurrecting twice as much stuff as they are. That they would just like get decimated every time. I watched so many extremely confident Necron players go into this list and fucking die, get totally destroyed, which is extremely funny. How many players makes it a major? It's kind of nebulous, to be honest, chat. The old FLG sort of arithmetic was, I believe, a GT was 24 players or higher, which is like, I don't know, you can kind of round down to 20, I guess, and at least 5 rounds. A major was 100 players or higher, and a super major was 200 players or higher, which is generally speaking how people how people refer to them. And a lot of times you can sort of refer to their the number of like tickets they have, the number of places they have. Because if you have 120 spots and you have 99 players or something, it doesn't really. You're probably still like major level. The other thing to do is if you consider it in a Swiss format and you can go 6 rounds and be undefeated, you're probably a major, which is like 64 players. Is that right? Yeah. Which is probably a better way of contextualizing it, but there's no like official definition. It's just like a major is like 2 to 3 times as big as a GT, and a super major is 2 to 3 times as big as a major, basically. What kind of beer do I like? I'm a cider man, to be honest. But yeah, otherwise lagers. I like a lager too. I actually got a bunch of Dos Equis in my refrigerator when we're doing a paint and drink party. Is it a typo that a spirit seer can join a Wraith Lord? Let's look. It might be that Wraith. Oh, Wraith Lord? Sorry. In my head, I was thinking Wraith Seer. No, it's always been the case that they can join Wraith Lords. It's weird. It's like the Cybernetica Datasmith thing where they join into Cataphren robots or Castellan robots. Sorry. And it just like makes the unit worse, basically. So you never, ever, ever do it. But it is technically a possibility. I think Games Workshop got in their head that they were like, oh, we did this attachment rule, and so we can attach characters to units of different types. Isn't that cool? And to be fair, it is cool. The problem is that it is usually hyper inefficient because you're attaching, what's a Spirit Seer, like 55 points? 65 points. you're attaching a 65-point character to a 110-point Wraith Lord, 130 or whatever the Wraith Lord is. So you're improving its damage output by a minuscule amount. +1 to hit is like whatever, you know. You're getting additional, like maybe 25% of damage output. You're increasing their cost by 50%, and you're also adding new keywords and a slower model into the unit. So it's harder to move them around. They take more damage from a wider variety of keywords. They also gain like characters, so now you can assassinate the spirits here, and that gives it up 2. And they can kill the spirits here by attacking it through the Wraith Lord. So there's like a million reasons that you would never ever do it, but it is legal. It's kind of the same. They did it in a bunch of factions. I talked about the Castle and Robots, but it also like it's basically how Tyrant Guard work, right? Where you're adding an infantry unit to a character. So kind of the vice versa in Tyranids. And honestly, I don't think it's like the correct implementation of that sort of effect. What they should have done is maybe made the spirits here be a targeted effect, where like if he's not attached to a unit, he could get the Techmarine ability, and then he chooses a Wraith Lord to get +1 to hit, and then he's not necessarily attached. That probably should have been how it works. You could also just make them have an aura, which also makes sense too. It was the weirdest part though was that they pushed so hard on that for Spirit Seers and some other stuff, but the Tech Marines retained their abilities from last edition, like verbatim, which didn't really make sense to me, to be honest, but it is what it is. It's like kind of an interesting quirk, but it's really terrible. Thought they changed definition from number of players to number of rounds sometime in the night. They might have, but it did. I mean, it didn't end up mattering. I think at the time that they had changed it, the reason that it mattered previously was that you're waiting for an ITC event, and this was through 8th edition. Basically, you're waiting for an ITC event was based on its classification. So if you were lucky enough to unlock a GT classification, then suddenly all of your player scores were weighted more heavily. Which meant that getting to the cutoff for a GT or a major was like a huge draw, because players were then getting a greater reward for playing in terms of their ITC standings. And you would end up, I think it generated a lot of skullduggery. First of all, it was totally arbitrary. Like I think it was like based on average event size at the time or something, but it like really didn't really have any basis in real life. Like 24 players versus 22 players is not a huge deal, right? Somebody gets sick one time and you go from 24 down to 23. The event is not significantly different, but suddenly everyone's scores are like way worse. And so you saw these situations where you'd have like a 21 player event with 3 like ringers, and they would make up player names and like BCP emails, and like TOs would just have like blank accounts that they would just sign up for their events for in order to like get to those new thresholds. It was extremely underhanded, and it created this like really toxic environment. Those in 9th edition, once like ITC and GW basically like took over ITC, they changed it so that it was a sliding scale based on the number of players. So larger events with more players, you would be naturally weighted higher, regardless of the exact number of players that it was. And so they got rid of those definitions. So it didn't really matter in 9th edition. And that's how it works right now. It's just the more players you have in an event, the heavier it's weighted on the ITC algorithm. But it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like useful just for parlance, right? You know that a major is a large event that's like pretty. A GT is like kind of a local or regional event, and major is a sort of a bigger event with a lot of prestige, and a super major is like a big, once a year sort of deal. Weird question about a stratagem from Ironstorm. The shootback strat is worded weirdly, wondering what I think. It says if you're bruised below half strength, but it doesn't say from. So if you have a 16 model, go down to 7. You can pop the strat. Can you pop the strat again if you go from 7 to 6? I think there was a question on this at one point. I seem to remember that coming up. And I forget what the resolution was and whether or not it's been FAQ'd. I can't keep track anymore, to be honest. Of all of the weird idiosyncrasies, every faction, every detachment has that one thing that's like super bizarre, and they get updated constantly in like secret erratas. They never get announced anywhere, so it's impossible to keep track of what gets locked in and what doesn't. And then also like event circuits have their own rulings, which adds more confusion. So the stratagem is Vengeful Animus, right? Any phase after your army, no, that's the one where you explode. Oh, Power of the Machine Spirit. You're reduced to 2 below half strength. Well, I guess we can look it up. Let's see. Let's see if it's been FAQ'd. That would likely be in a faction FAQ, a faction errata, if it had been changed officially. Would be Space Marines. So there's nothing in the faction, and then is there a definition for below half strength is the other question. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's covered at all. I think that the safest way to play it is that it seems like an intentional thing. I think you could certainly make the argument that it triggers literally anytime you take damage if you're below half strength. I think that the intention is that if you become below half strength as the result of that attack, then it is when it's meant to trigger. I don't know how often it's going to happen, but I think it could go either way. Yeah, below half strength is defined, but reduced to below half strength is not. So if below half strength is when you are below half of your remaining wounds or model count, right? So if you are already below half strength and then are reduced to an even lower number that is below your, there's less than half of your strength, are you reduced to below half strength? I don't believe so, but it's never stated anywhere. I think that, speaking personally, the safest way to play it is that it would only trigger when you begin above half strength and then take enough damage to then be below half strength. But I think that's a thing where you ask your local community. I guess I wonder if WTC has an FAQ. I actually would not be surprised. And generally speaking, as much as WTC has some hokey rulings, generally speaking, if you are asking a TO, they will all and there is a very specific FAQ in WTC about it. They will most likely go with that. WTC gets weird when it makes up when it house rules things, but less so when it is when it's just making rulings on sort of obscure rules. Doesn't look like they have anything, unless there is a reduced to below half strength FAQ. They have a lot of core mechanics FAQ'd. Is this a searchable document? They just don't have anything about... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they do, actually. Nothing about half strength at all. Damn. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would say that you probably have to begin above half strength to then be reduced to below half strength, but it is ambiguous. Welcome to 10th edition. The edition where everything is we have somehow found a way to be less well defined than 9th edition, which is already a fucking mess. Not super surprising though. It's a half strength FAQ. Got him. Indeed, chat. Indeed. What do I think could change in the Pariah format to make first or second turn more balanced? That is a fucking phenomenal question, and I don't know if I'm entirely prepared to answer it. Like, unironically, you might have to go 6 rounds. Like, real talk. Like, I think secret missions are probably... secret missions are too strong for the second player, and a lot of the bottom 5 scoring is too strong for the second player, but they're too weak if you change them. If you play very defensively and you can go 6 rounds with a higher points cap, then that tends to grant an additional bonus to the second player, because they tend to have an attritional lead. So you run out of steam as the first player by the end of the game a lot of times, unless like the matchup's really weird. I think that I would like to see... honestly, I would like to see, like... And this might not be pertinent to specifically Pariah Nexus. This might just be a general thing. I would like to see first versus second player set before the game begins, right? It's based on the initiative, like the attacker-defender role. So you can deploy with that in mind. I would also like to see the deployment zones change for the first player. The first player should get a restricted deployment zone, but get the opportunity to both deploy first and go first, and then tone down the second player's advantage on bottom of round 5. It sounds weird to allow the first player to know if they're going first, and it allows them to like push super far on turn 1, but it also means that you are never in a position as the second player where you deploy like inefficiently, right? Where you're like, oh, I could be going first or second, and like I have to deploy like basically always that I'm going second. I don't know. I think I would like to see that happen. And honestly, it might end up being that like if the first player knows they're going first, they can play so aggressively that you can like you win harder, and then it's okay that the second player has like a baked-in advantage. But as long as that's something that like both players can operate with the knowledge of from the beginning of the game, then it like functions a lot. It works a lot more functionally than I'll deploy and then see if I basically win the game by going second, which is just like I think a big field bads. I would love to see deploy first, go first. That would be the big thing I would like to see. But that's a big overhaul. I don't think that there's like one size fits all answer, because a lot of it I think is very mission dependent. So I don't know. I would like to see it probably helps too if every mission had a primary scoring cap, like on a per round basis. So some missions don't, and those missions also tend to have like really insane bottom 5 scoring. Like you can have games where you score like 45 points bottom of 5 because you're like, well, my primary is uncapped, so I can score all 20 in one turn and also complete a secret mission, and also complete secondaries. And you're just like, okay, cool. I go from 0 to beating my opponent in a single turn, and there's like literally nothing I can do about it. And it's kind of wild that a lot of those don't have scoring caps. Which I think is probably a mistake. I think they were probably just forgotten. Scouting and infiltrating feels broken. Yeah, it's too good for sure. It would be interesting too if like I would like to see first player deploy first, go first, but second player drops infiltrators first. Would be, I think, really cool. Because then you could prevent the first player from getting a huge advantage on turn 1 if you had infiltrators. That's what I would like to see happen. Funny if an army roll could be that an army always goes first. Yeah, I don't know. I think we talked about that, I think, previously. It depends on the army in particular, but that's like Games Workshop. They develop their armies and their mission structures like independently of each other, and so which is I think a problem generally speaking, but. But you then create like paradigms where if going first is good in like a particular format, then the army that always goes first is just like fucking super busted. Purge the Foe needs to go. Yeah, maybe. It was weird that like. It's unfortunate there are some armies that are just designed in such a way that they just die to particular missions. Purge the Foe, I think, is the biggest one, but also like Call the Horde and Bring It Down being like uncapped secondaries. It's like, what are we doing with that? What's going on there? Like there are some armies that just get vaporized by those two like random secondary objective cards, which is probably unnecessary. 8th edition was deploy first, go first, yeah. 8th edition was deploy first, go first, but for the majority of the edition, it also had seize the initiative. So it was like deploy first, go first, asterisk, maybe you don't. And then you just lose the game when you get seized on. That was not a good situation. Once seize the initiative, ITC got rid of seize the initiative in like their last year or something of 8th edition, but it was like too late, probably. That mechanic was just the toxic sex bit. But for the most part, there were a lot of difference. Like, and one of the reasons I think that the deployment zones have to change for first versus second is that the board was physically larger in 8th edition than it was in 9th or onwards, and so you played on a 6x4 instead of a 44x60. So you had like an extra the corner deployment distance was an extra like 8 inches or so, which in some cases is a whole turn of movement. So the second player can actually deploy much more defensively in ITC than they could end up doing in 9th edition. 9th edition also ended up being a very aggressive format. And honestly, like 10th edition basically uses the same mission structure. So you essentially have to be scoring your primary every turn in order to keep consistent, and ITC didn't have that problem. So it's a very different like form. The whole structure is different, which is why I think that you have to constrain the first player's movement if they can deploy knowing they're going first. But I think that would make the game a lot less spiky in terms of that first versus second. War Machine uses deploy first, go first, and the second player is massive advantage. This is also a different game. Like, the difference between War Machine and 40k is that War Machine's threat ranges are like hugely limited. And to be fair, I haven't played Mark IV at all, so I'm speaking entirely as like from a Mark II and III knowledge base. But you basically, with outside of some very, very unique circumstances, in previous editions of War Machine, you physically could not attack your opponent on turn 1. So the first player is always walking into the second player's threat ranges. That doesn't happen in Warhammer. If you're in line of sight in Warhammer, you're in range almost always. So the difference is it's a difference of like threat value and your capacity to like sort of set the tempo of the game rather than your opponent getting the first crack at you, essentially. Like, there's a lot of situations in 40k where you go first and all you do is move up to the edges of your ruins, right? Like, you don't even leave your cover because you're like, now I threaten to the objectives, and no one makes any attacks until round 3. But you've set the line of scrimmage on your opponent's side of the table, so you have this like sort of tempo advantage. I can't say for sure that that's how War Machine doesn't have that right now because I haven't played it in a million years. But that was not really something that happened as much as War Machine. Mark IV War Machine's getting a little bit of a resurgence. It's doing better than it was on release. I think Steamforge Games taking over, so there's a little bit more of a sort of a marketing focused team behind it now. I think it's going to be a big deal for it. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see if War Machine picks up. And to be honest, like I hope it does, because the industry can only ever improve by having actual competition for Warhammer. Like all that other games being good is going to do is force the Warhammer design team to pull its head out and actually design a real game. Anyway, chat, we were talking about some Cascade Clash. It was a tangent, which I appreciated. I do love a good tangent. Is War Machine true line of sight? No. War Machine uses an actual line of sight system. It uses like a two-dimensional line of sight. You trace a line between your bases. If you can trace an unbroken line between the bases that doesn't cross over another base or a LOS blocking piece of terrain, then you have line of sight. Which is, to be honest, how every game should do it. And I will die on that hill. I will throw myself on that hill, and I will entrench myself, and I will place artillery emplacements and dig foxholes and trenches on that hill right there. What a concept! Yeah. Also in War Machine, here's the craziest thing about War Machine, chat. Other models can block line of sight in War Machine. What? If I stand behind a tank, it blocks line of sight to me? That's wild. I can't fire like sniper rounds through solid objects to hit my opponent. That's insane. Yeah. And it also uses a facing system too. At least it did previously. I don't know if Mark IV does. But you have a 90-degree facing, so your models always have to face each other in order to attack each other and not get backstabbed. So there's like a bunch of additional sort of mechanics in there that help. Like, I don't think they help the realism very much, because War Machine is like an extremely abstracted game, but they help the visual appeal, because like War Machine armies actually fight each other. They don't just like awkwardly like stick their guns around corners. 40k line of sight rolls are ridiculous, and that's going to be for somebody who plays Magnus religiously. Yeah. Magnus's line of sight is fucking wild. It's so weird. Competitive War Machine basically only uses mats and footprints. Yeah, that is a downside of competitive War Machine. I think that, I don't know, there's a happy medium between 2D terrain. If you're trying to play a game competitively, 2D terrain is the way to go. That's what Inky's coming to agree with me with. But it doesn't look very good aesthetically, and I think it does like sort of create this, I don't know. There's a competitive, there's a happy medium between that miniature games and almost miniature games alone can strike between the between the aesthetics of a game and their competitive playability. It's very difficult to do that for almost any other game. But miniature games, like, for example, can create these very like highly defined terrain sets, but then also like place very aesthetically pleasing elements on top of them. And that's something that competitive players like tend to buck against, which kind of frustrates me, to be honest. Like, there's everyone can have their cake and eat it too when it comes to terrain. Like, you should be able to use a two-dimensional template to play your terrain, because it's more convenient and it's more well defined. But also, you should always like spruce up your table with additional elements that make it look good. Because like, why are we playing a miniatures game if we don't want to make it look good? And it's always, it makes me sad, because like the two camps of miniature games are what's up, cat? Are these like very casual players who, as soon as you define a terrain template for them, they'll like pop a blood vessel and explode. Versus these competitive players who don't give a shit about anything besides the template. And like, those people could exist in the same format, but they don't want to. And it's like trying to put together two opposite ends of a magnet. You're like, but you could put ruins on your ruin template, and you could put trees on your forest template. And they're like, no, I won't do it. And you're like, and you could also, you could have a ruin that you could remove from the base so that you could measure. And the casual player's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to have a base that removes. How dare you? Insane. One-dimensional terrain is the future. All right, can I get to my keyboard? No. I just got to do it with my mouse, I guess. I think the worst for terrain though is Song of Ice and Fire, in my opinion. That one I think strikes both. It hits both wrong ends of the spectrum. It is basically both antagonistic to it like doesn't use enough terrain for two-dimensional terrain to really matter, but the system is also like on a base level antagonistic to three-dimensional terrain, so you just like you get to use neither basically. You lose very little terrain and also the ugliest version of that very little terrain. That one's the worst. That game has been like very carefully designed to look as bad as possible, which is wild. Although it's a fun game. What's up, cat? Aw, you're so cute. Yeah, I think like part of it might be that like GW has done this like hobby terrain first, subscribed to that philosophy for so long that they basically can't come back. You know, they're like, well, we have this whole catalog of terrain that is utterly unplayable in any rule system that we've ever created, but we have to create rule systems with that in mind, because like with those catalogs in mind, because that's all we know. But I don't know, I think they could make it work. Like, you just sell the terrain kits and then you sell like the neoprene. They started getting into neoprene objective markers, right? You just sell the neoprene terrain templates every competitive season, and then you just like tell people to put your terrain on the top of the template. And also get rid of true line of sight. That would also help make your terrain better. It turns out, if you get rid of true line of sight, you can play with way more terrain. Like, way more interesting varieties of terrain. Right now, the problem is that... God, we're on such a tangent. The problem is that 40k will, like, just refuses to use anything that's not a fucking ruin. They don't know how to do it. And, like, you could apply... perfectly functional rules to any other type of terrain and encourage people to play literally any kind of terrain, and literally all they want to do is make ruin rules. Like, the obscuring keyword in 9th edition was so cool because you could potentially apply line of sight blocking to any terrain feature in the game, and everyone was just like, well, I'm going to do it to ruins because that's what Games Workshop recommends, and then they just codified that in 10th edition. Now the only line of sight blocking trait is ruins. That's stupid. That's stupid. Make all terrain line of sight blocking. Fuck it. I don't know, chat. Tangential Tuesday, yeah. Yeah, every 40k battle takes place in a ruined city. Right. Yeah. Like, we just I was going to use Space Marine 2 as an example, but it's really actually a limited number of biomes that aren't in a city. That one is actually very much a city. It's very consistent with the aesthetic. But it's like, you know, there are so many pieces of lore and stuff that take us on like maiden worlds and alien forests and hive worlds and like all this stuff that you know, icy tundras and shit, and none of it is represented mechanically in the game at all. And it's really sad. So here's the thing about the 9th edition forest, chat. 9th edition didn't have forests be -1 to be hit while you were inside, and ruins were +1 save and obscuring, right? Games Workshop recommended that forests be -1 to hit and ruins be both like +1 save and obscuring. But those rules were not required to be used. Those were optional. But the problem is that literally no one read that. Games Workshop said they had a section in the 9th edition rulebook that had recommended keywords for terrain, but those were not codified. Those were simply the only thing anyone fucking used. And it made me so mad. Like, it just made me so physically irate. Because people would be like, well, this is a ruin. It's always light, heavy, obscuring, like, scalable. No, it's not. Games Workshop said this is the keywords that we recommend you use, but you can make your ruins do anything. You could make your ruins be dense cover. And in fact, they did. They actually recommend that small ruin walls be dense for no reason. I don't understand that part. But you could apply the obscuring keyword to your forests. Forests didn't have to be dense cover. They could have been obscuring, but no one did it. They gave you the tools to build a perfect set of terrain out of literally any collection that you had. And everyone was just like, look in the recommended keyword section and automatically apply everything in there without actually like putting their brain to use. Part of the issue was that Games Workshop didn't have any faith in their players, so they didn't let their players figure it out themselves. They did like give you those pages with a diagram and the keywords next to it, which was stupid. But also they had rules like dense cover only applied to terrain features of 3 inches or height, and obscuring only applied to terrain features of 4 inches. That was or 5, I think. I can't remember. That was the worst set of rules ever written, because you could have terrain features that had a keyword applied to them that had no mechanical effect, which was insane because Games Workshop didn't trust players enough to keyword their like terrain features in a way that made sense. Like if you have a piece of ruin terrain that you felt was too short to block line of sight, you just don't give it the keyword. That's crazy. It didn't have to be codified in the rules. Like the 9th edition terrain rules set was so flexible and so cool, and Games Workshop just like they stabbed it. They created this thing and then they like fucking shot it in the foot on the last lap. Right as they were going to print, they were like, you know what? Let's ruin this. Let's ruin this so the whole community misuses it. Ugh, so dumb. It made me so mad. We used terrain for one season in T5S2. We used terrain that had no vertical elements, but was obscuring. So you could put a tank behind it, and then the tank could move into it and then shoot, instead of being stopped by the stupid wall. Suddenly, the terrain was better for a wide variety of unit types, which no one ever did. And you had to make those dumb, like bay door like walls so that a rhino could move through obscuring terrain. So fucking stupid. I do like the -1 to hit vents, to be fair, though. I think those ended up actually playing pretty well in the US Open layouts. But that might have been because the US Open is really boring in every other situation. Forest recommended to be obscure. Most events made them obscure. I saw a couple that did. Most of the ones that I played did not make them obscure, but they just used them as dense. But I don't know. TOs were too worried about trying to deviate from the standard. Yeah, so the problem was that they created a standard. That was the issue. Like, and there were a bunch of keywords in there that were really stupid, right? That were like did we need what was the one where there was one where you couldn't end your movement on top of it, you could only climb it. Like you could climb and you could only do so if your movement could go all the way through. Unstable, I think. Do we need that? Do we? Probably not. Probably don't need that. Do we need scalable, really? Probably not. Do we need heavy cover? That mechanic was maybe one of the worst ever written? No. And actually, that was funny because, speaking of deviating from design, Games Workshop recommended that everyone use fucking heavy cover. And then everyone took heavy cover off their terrain features because it was the worst rule. It was like impossible to correctly resolve. Fucking horrible. But the problem was that like they could have cut a bunch of the keywords and given you a condensed version, and then not given you the recommended compositions, and then the community would have generated its own standard, or each event would have its own standard. And if you had like 6 keywords that you had to remember, that's all you potentially needed. you know. But there were like so many that they could have just axed. There were like 20 keywords, but half of them like were never ever used ever one time, not a single time. I think they could have cut it down and just been like, here's 10 keywords or 6 keywords or 8 keywords or whatever. Do with them what you will. And then the community would have generated its own rules for Train, which would have been much better than the ones that Games Workshop gave them. But the problem was the Games Workshop defined everything to begin with, and suddenly like everyone felt like they had to do that, which is dumb. But that's my opinion on it, chat. That's what I have to say about terrain. Oh, this video is going to be a nightmare to timestamp, because now I have to timestamp every individual little topic that we talk about. Oh, man. Any non-Bulgrin guard lists this weekend? We didn't find any in our initial peak. So I would say probably a minimal amount. I think there were some. Actually, did Art of War's Militarum list use Fulgrim? Was it Art of War we were talking about yesterday? Who had guard with just like a bunch of tanks? Oh no, they did use Bulgrim. They had 18 Bulgrim in that list, but that was like basically it. It was like a ton of tank orders and a bunch of tanks, and then a Bulgrim in front of it, and that was the entire list. Maybe today would be less tangential if we got a gosh darn rule shakeup. Yeah, you're speaking my language, dude. Yeah, I was hoping we would be in here new list land already, but not today apparently. We can talk about these Tyranids from Cascade Clash, though. Was won by Space Wolves. Some sick Awakened Dynasty Necrons over here. Tyranids. Also rocked a Synaptic Nexus. Do we dare click on the YouTube link? A Kerrigan apologist. Okay. Is this a StarCraft 2 thing?
Awaken, my
yeah!
God, and embrace the glory that is your birthright. Know that I am the Overmind, the eternal will of the Swarm, and that you have been created to serve me. Serve the Hive.
This is so classic. Incredible. That's great. This one does have Power of the Hive Mind, so we are +1 strength and AP Neurotyrant over here. I actually kind of like the Synaptic Nexus list that run multiple Neurotyrants. So they have one that can hide in the back and like camp their backline objective, which is actually it's a really good unit for, because it beats like every utility unit ever. You're just like, I'll drop these JPIs back here, and it's like Overwatch. I'll probably kill them, but if I don't, I'll do it next turn, and then they're dead. And also it doesn't die to any of them because it's like T8 with an invuln save. We're rocking Gargoyles and Hormagaunts, double Exocrines, double Maleceptor, double Neurolictor. This one's taking a Trigon. The last list we looked at had a Moloch. This one's rocking a Trigon. The Moloch's actually kind of cool because it forces additional Battle Shock checks, and you could maybe stack extra Mortal Wounds with Smothering Shadow. But the Trigon's also good just as a big rapid ingressor, +2 Tyrant effects to students as well. Yeah, kind of. I guess like the double Maleceptor, double Tyrant effects is like sort of becoming the primary build. And Tyrant effects is like real talk are actually sick. They're a little low volume, but once you give them the reroll once they hit, they can be kind of consistent. And their gun is the only way that Tyranids have of punching through armor, like in the entire world, which is sad to say, but at least it does 1 trillion damage. It's got a coin flip chance of one-shotting like half the vehicles of the game. He's got cool Tyranids? Hell yeah. Some nice like Zerg coded Tyranids. I don't know if I've never really noticed the +1 strength from Synapse on the Dragon. It's not the hardest thing to get in, because a lot of times what you can do is you can rapid ingress it, because it has so much flexibility over where it goes. You can rapid ingress it 3 inches, or not 3 inches, 18 inches away from the Neuro Tyrant, and then you Neuraloid it, and it's immediately strength 10. But like the situations in which strength 10 is the tiebreaker. Are kind of rare, I've found. Sometimes it's useful, but in a lot of situations, like Strength 9 versus Strength 10 just means that like they AOC instead of not AOCing, and then they survive you anyway. Because you're like winning on 4s, and then they save on 4s, and then you do like 6 damage, and you're like, okay, thank you very much for showing up. I don't know. Definitely just good as a big, stupid... sort of backline sweeper, though. A Trigon in the back of your deployment zone is basically like an invincible god. During Trigons and Terminators. Well, the problem there is that they're AP 2. So even if you're winning them on 2s, they save on 3s. So you're like, if I hit on 2s and wound on 2s, I probably convert, call it... like 8, and then they save on 3, so they shoot on a good day. You kill 3 Terminators. And you're like, okay, it's definitely not worth 170 points, and then you explode on the crackback. I also don't know how many Terminators I've seen outside of Deathwing Knights. I like it. Killing specifically the Terminator profile is a little what's the word? It's not super like necessary. And to be fair, Tyranids are already really good at doing it. A lot of times you just shoot them with an Exocrine, you do just as much damage as you do charging them with a Trigon, because of the higher AP value. More Tyranids, dude. Tyranids actually did not have a great weekend, but they did get a lot of 4-in-1s or 5-in-1s. So Vanguard Onslaught, Sneaky Snakes. Are we seeing Trigons this one too? Broodlord, Deathleaper, Narrow Tyrant, a Winged Type Tyrant with Chameleon, a Prime, Gargoyles, double Exocrine, a Genestealer unit, big Genestealers, big Genestealer energy. 2 Lictors, a Maleceptor, Malok, Neurolictor, melee weapon, warrior unit, Zoanthropes. There's no snakes in this list at all. I guess they're so sneaky. They're so sneaky that you can't even see them. Everything in this list has fucking legs. Trash. It's trash. Some more Imperial Knights, too. Oh, no way Thomas Knight plays Imperial Knights. Are you kidding me? Incredible. This is almost exactly the list we looked at earlier. It trades the last Armiger for Banner of Macarius Triumphant, so the Lancer has objective locking, plus Calidus and Eversword. That's actually pretty clever for the Lancer, because oftentimes what that guy does is just he just goes face and he runs to the middle of the table, and then you like take the coin flip chance that you actually kill him, and if you don't, you lose the game. And he locks the objective if you don't kill him too, which is nice. Do you think Thomas Knight has towering? Yeah, I think so. I would say so. He could also play Grey Knights. Maybe he just keeps teleporting around. Maybe that's his second strategy. So the other thing we wanted to take a peek at was another peek at Astra Militarum for Westy over here. Because we talked about this list, which did include 15 Bulgrin. We did not talk about this one. There was a lot of Astra Militarum at Hanseatic Alliance. Louis Steinmerling did run Bulgrin. And a Rogaldorn. Sick. John Bismarck. Bismarck O'Brien. And interesting combination of names there. This was a Bulgrin list, but it is only 9 Bulgrin. It is not the full 3 units. With a Tempestus Scion unit, or 2 Tempestus Scion units, a big and a little. Double Hellhound. You love to see it. Super sick. Plus, double Rogaldorn, double Chimera. Okay. What's the HQ? Gaunt's Ghosts, Lord Solar, Militarum Command Squad, Platoon Command Squad, and then we have an Infantry Squad for Lord Solar to jump into. And Alexander Tepe. This is the wildest combination of results I've seen in a really long time. He basically had a 19, 2 20s, a 16, like 15, 16, 17, and then he went 0-20 twice. What? This man was just like, he's just submarining wildly. He's like, get destroyed, annihilate the next 2 people, get destroyed again, do a bunch of murder. He's running Gaunt's Ghost, Lord Solar Leontis, double Militarum Tempestus Command Squads, Platoons Command Squad, Tank Commander, double Jungle Fighters, Infantry Squad. Oh, there's the Bulgrin. It was a bunch of Bulgrin. It's a trillion Tempestus Scions, 1 Rogaldorn. So it's 2 Torox Primes, 2 Chimeras. So Chimeras for the Kadishan Jungle Fighters, Infantry Squad goes with Lord Solar, and then we just put the Tempestus Command Squad units like on the table, and we do the full the Tempestus Command Squad Wombo combo, where they get hit and wound rerolls. These things do actually go kind of crazy once they're like supercharged. Although you oftentimes want some, I guess like, you get an out of activation order from the Gaunt's Ghosts themselves. Although we're just taking plasma pistols and the Tempesters, so they don't have they can't get double orders anyway, so they're just going to order their own unit. Jean-Marc tried to 10 Hearthguard and they're fun. Yeah, that unit looks sick, for sure. Every time I see them roll out like a million attacks, they're like, I'm going to shoot 92 times. And you're like, okay. With sustained 2. Oh, sick. Well, I'm going to die, I guess. Guess I'll die. It's awesome. Yeah, that unit looks super cool. Damn Legion in chat. What's up, dude? What's this about Deathwatch making a comeback? Yeah, I closed my window, but as it happens, chat, we did talk about it at the beginning of the video, but we have this post from Warhammer Official on Facebook. They have said that the studio is working on a digital update to bring Deathwatch armies back to games of Warhammer 40,000, expected in December. I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be an Emperor's Children kind of deal, where you get like a little tiny mini index that's like, hey, here you play a Space Marine army, but you can also take this 1 extra unit. Yeah, Deathwatch coming back. It's no longer just Xenos Hunters. I think that enough people complained that they were like, oh, actually, we should probably not like squat this whole army. This whole ass Space Marine chapter is getting removed. Do I think it'll be a Marine supplement or more kill teams for agents? I think it will be a Marine supplement. Watch it return as a Legends detachment. Oh man. The monkeys spawn curls. They're like, you can play Deathwatch again in Legends games. Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. No, I imagine it'll be a Deathwatch Veterans datasheet for Adeptus Astartes. And also like maybe a detachment rule or something. I have a sneak, like they'll add like Watchmasters and kill teams like back into Astartes and call it a day, I think is what will probably happen. Record for number of shots with the Hearthguard between Vulcan and Grenade was 118. Was that shots or hits? That's the real question. Because if it's shots, then you're like expecting, whatever, like 140, 150 hits out of that, which is fucking sick. If we're squatting Spacer Chapters, can we kill off Iron Hands? Brutal. Also, yes, they're always broken. That was hits. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Less exciting if it's only hits. Very exciting if it's shots. But realistically, right? If you shoot at a unit of 20 with all the grenade launchers and you get like 10 extra shots on top of that, how many shots do the... I guess it's the plasma guns that shoot like one time, right? And the Vulcanite shoots multiple, but is only one damage devastating. Do I have that right? Yeah, the Vulcanite shoots 3. So realistically, if you're shooting at a unit of 20, you should be getting somewhere around 75 shots from the blast weapons, plus 30 from the Vulcanites. So, you should be getting 105 shots and averaging 117% conversion rate with just the judgment tokens and the sustained hits. So you should be like average against a unit of 20 with a Vulcanite unit is like 125 or so. 123 or something. Shots? No, 123 hits. So actually you were very close to average. Overall experience with playing Votann was handing her opponent a trillion saving rolls. The experience that I've seen people have is failing to wound every time with their missile launchers and then being sad. And then killing everyone with the Hearth Guard anyway. Yeah, do we have any other factions we want to take a peek at here, chat? We ran through the major events of the weekend, but we can take a peek at the smaller ones if we want to. If anybody wants to have a talk about some specific army lists. It was 118 shots and 138 hits. I knew it. I knew it. I was like, 118 hits is like, I guess that's about average. But 118 shots, when you like spike the hit roll, or the shot roll, and then you sustain off that, that's the spice right there. That's good. Calling it out, Emperor's Children revealed at LVO. We'll see. It would be shocking if they didn't get a reveal in the near future. Especially because like it's supposed to be like Year of Chaos or whatever. But GW always says that, and then they never follow up on that stuff. There was a little bit of craft rolls that we talked about yesterday. I don't think we have much else, much other craft worlds to peek at right now. I don't think there was anything from HAO. Just 4 and 4. That's not very good. Yucky. Tried Magna Rails. 2 of them shot 8 times and got 2 hits. That's classic. It's like so much upside, but so inconsistent. Holy crap. Cascade, I don't believe had any Chaos Knights or Eldari. So we're striking out a little bit here, chat. That was another one of the massive number of Adeptus Mechanicus players who were killing it. Whoa! This is a 3-2 Imperial Agents. All right, we got to look at this one. Ashley Reed over here. This is from Down Under, I think. Oh, from New Zealand. From Down Under adjacent. Running Imperialis fleet, so the Navis Imperialis detachment. I'm gonna pull up the faction rolls there so we can talk about it accurately. Have not talked about Aegis of the Imperium at all. Rocking a Calidus Assassin, Inquisitor Draxus, and Watch Captain Artemis. Watch Captain Artemis is such a slot in. He seems so good. Just like having a dude who regenerates himself for whatever he is, like 65 points. Just running around. Solid. We got an Inquisitor with Psychic Gift, so he's got this cool little Torrent weapon. Navigator, 2 Rogue Traders. One of them is the Fleet Master. So that one lets it's a Rites of Battle, but only for Violent Acquisition, Masters of the Void, or Close Quarters Barrage. So, sustained hits 1, lance and ignore cover against an enemy on an objective marker. That's a Violent Acquisition. Masters of the Void is you can set up on turn 2 in your opponent's deployment zone in strategic reserves. And then close quarters barrage is you get +1 strength and AP, targeting an enemy within 12. The other one is Combat Lander, which lets you deep strike. And the Rogue Traders give you redeployments for your battle line units. So as long as they attach into battle line units, you get redeployments at the beginning of the game. So you can use those to put the models in strategic reserve and then deep strike with them too. Plus a digital weapon Watchmaster. Interesting. Gives you basically a little tiny grenade, 3d6 on 4-ups. When you're selected to fight, you do mortal wounds. You average 1.5 mortal wounds when you attack. But that's just a points filler. It's only 10 points.
Check out my GSC list from Midgard last weekend. New meta once I get the bugs out.
GSE for Midgard. All right, we'll take a peek. GSE is like kind of becoming meta very quickly, I think. They've had a lot of results in the last couple of weeks. We had 2 big ol' chonky Deathwatch kill teams. 2 units of Imperial Navy Breachers. Those can bring in the Rogue Traders as well. And those units are sick. 2 Inquisitorial Agent Squads. So we could potentially attach in the Inquisitor and Kyria Draxus into these, I guess, if we want to. Are Inquisitorial Agents that good? They seem kind of mid, but... Alright. Triple Subductor Squads, double Voids Men-at-Arms, and 1 Imperial Rhino, 2 Imperial Inquisitorial Chimeras. I wonder if they let the Nestingall the transports. Almost certainly not, right? But you do have the Rhinos that can carry the Deathwatch kill teams into the fight. And then the little units can get in the Chimeras too. That's an interesting list. What are the Navy Breachers equipped with? This one? Power weapon, plasma gun, bolt pistol, no melty guns. Interesting. And a demo charge. And they get that 18-inch grenade launcher guy. Sick. And I guess too, the Deathwatch kill teams actually have like kind of sweet synergy, because they have those heavy thunderhammers, which are usually just weapon skill 4, but you can choose to just give yourself +1 to hit on everyone, like army wide essentially, in your command phase, or you can get a 5+ invuln save and +1 OC. I guess it's army wide against one enemy. It's like a bad OC moment. Not quite wholly army wide, but it definitely helps you like deliver the kill teams, because you can usually like get one in on either a reserve or by like catapulting with the Rhino, so you can like send a unit from the Rhino and then replace it and then send the second one. So you can make use of that +1 to hit over multiple turns on the big Deathwatch kill team squad. And those guys they do hit hard enough that they'll probably, especially assuming you can give them the lance thing. Sustained hit 1 lance. You're like wounding everyone on 3s or 2s basically with the thunderhammers, which goes kind of incredible. That gets sort of insane, because that's just any agents of the Imperium. Yeah. A little bit of synergy in there. That's cool. All right, what are we looking for? Which one? Midgard? Midgard are we looking at? Oh, who's the player? That was Ashley Reed, I want to see was the name of that player. It was Ashley Reed. Tried to make kill team lists in the app, and it said you couldn't take that many Thunderhammers. The app's like very weird about weapon loadouts. You can definitely take 4 Thunderhammers. It's just like I think that it depends on like how many of the other guys are equipped with which weapon. Let's look at the Deathwatch kill team datasheet real quick. Yeah, so it's for every 5 models in the unit, up to 2 can have their bolt guns replaced with Thunderhammers. So you have to have, for it to be legal, you have to start with 10 models and then replace exactly 4. If you can't like start with 5 and then give 4 people like Thunderhammers and then go to 10, I think that breaks it. But yeah, this like loadout selection is like super obnoxious for these kinds of units. So a little annoying. You get like 1 frag cannon, 1 Infernus bolter, plus 4 Hunt Thunderhammers. So you can get like 4 heavy weapons and 4 Thunderhammers with 2 sets of 2 different heavy weapons, just to confuse you. But most of the time you'd like either build range or melee. Yeah. Do you envy their hammers as a GK main? Yeah. Yeah, Deathwatch Thunderhammers, it's always been weird how much better a Deathwatch Thunderhammer is than a regular Thunderhammer, because it's been classic that they're just like significantly stronger. Which I think is just because they're a 2-handed weapon instead of a 1-handed weapon. I think is the only rationale. All right, Midgard ITC. Look at Jeffrey Colpitts going down over here. Two Genestealer Cult players. Yeah, once Genestealer Cult got unlocked, everyone's like ready to jump into it. This one's rocking Brood Brothers Exilia. So this is the ally detachment. It's kind of cool. No one actually has to look up because nobody plays that one. Triple Benefactus. Really? Okay. How'd they do? Did they laser cannon a bunch of people to death with their brains? Double Jackal Alphas for rerolls, plus a Goliath truck. 3 Institute Killers Ridge Runners, pretty standard. All mining lasers. Triple Rock Grinders. Did you just put the Benefacti in the Rock Grinders? Is that what we did? Or in the truck, I guess? Because nobody else goes in the truck, right? So it's literally just like 3 las cannon bros inside like vibing inside a dedicated transport. The brain bus? That's incredible. It's only like, what is this? 325 points for the 3 Benefacti in the little truck. But listen, they could get a 4+ invuln when the truck dies. Just hope nobody takes any mortal wounds. Against one enemy, you can get ignore cover, +1 to hit, reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound. Ridge Runners and Benefactus hit on 2s. Interesting. Let's take a peek at the detachment. So you can select an enemy within 18 inches invisible of their Militarum units. You can only target that enemy unit, and when the enemy unit is caught in overlapping fire, each time a Genestealer Cult model in the army attacks, you get +1 to hit. So the Ridge Runners become Ballistic Steel 3, right? Because they're taking spotters. And then you can give them +1 to hit by attacking with the Hellhounds, I guess. And the Hellhounds just strip cover, right? It doesn't say that you no longer have the benefit, or that you gain ignore cover. It's always annoying that sometimes they word those in different ways, so that sometimes they do not work cross-faction. Yeah, this one's just like, you do not gain cover. So the Hellhounds are like kind of a champion, actually, in that situation. Just apply a bunch of bonuses onto somebody as soon as they shoot them. Oop, I lost my page. No, what have I done? What have I done? Unfortunately, you can't use... they have a reactive move, but it doesn't work on vehicles. That's too bad. And then you can use Symbiotic Destruction. Give them reroll wounds of 1. That's cool. That's a cool list. Yeah. I mean, Hellhounds are already, like, insane, right? They're just, like, a really... For 115 points, you get... You're like 1 toughness and 2 wounds shy of a Lehman Russ defensive profile. And you get a bunch of flamers, and you give everyone ignore cover, basically. So that's sick. Does the Jackal Alphys work on the Militarum stuff, or is he keyword locked? I assume that he only works on Genestealer Cult stuff, right? Yeah. So I guess the downside is that the Lehman Russ are actually like hyper inaccurate, right? They don't get like lethals against anything. They don't get hit bonuses against anything. They're just like there. But maybe it's fine if you're just like shooting enough D6 damage weapons downrange. The best part is you don't care about the wildly unpredictable army roll. Yeah, you don't get to cry whenever you don't roll the 3-up or 4-up or whatever to regenerate your unit, because you're just like, fuck it, we ball. And don't even get it. Who cares? Who cares if I don't even have it? Yeah, the shooting in engagement range thing is cool, especially shooting out of engagement range. Steven Zukowski also playing some Genestealer Cult. Went 3-0 though. Biosanctic Breed Surge. Fuck yeah. Double Abominant, double Biophagus. Triple Kellermorph, because they rule. Plus a Patriarch. That's interesting. Do Pure Strange Genestealers get the Brood Surge abilities? They don't, right? It's only Aberrant and Biophagus units. He had 20 Pure Strange Genestealers. Oh no, it is true. It does work on Pure Strange Genestealers. Just kidding. Cool. Yeah, I guess we didn't see that previously. We just saw everyone rocking triple Aberrants. But this is just 10 Aberrants and like puts a bunch more sort of like threat range pressure on the table with all the Pure Strains, and then like open space for the other stuff to drop in and to get the +1 to charge. This is a cool list too. Man, Genestealer Cult lists are actually like super sick. It's too bad that they basically went like flew under the radar for so long. Or maybe it's good, I don't know. Maybe it's good for the rest of us. Good stuff, Chant. Big old GSE discussion. Well, congratulations on going 2-1 with a sweet list. This looks like it was a pretty spicy result this week. Yuri went 3-0 with Custodies. What a Chad. That's from Yuri from VF Miniatures, by the way, over in YouTube. Give him a sub. He does some like datasheet reviews and battle reports and stuff over there. Well, chat. If we don't have anything else that we want to dive into, we have. Yeah, I think it is probably getting to be the time where we ramp up the show. It's been a bit of a good one, I think. A lot of interesting discussion. I hope everyone enjoyed it. We are kind of like waiting in the wings. It feels like the last like month has been like, please, an update, Silver Play, where everyone's dying to, like, I guess, like Dark Angels and stuff now. But yeah, I don't know. We're just like kind of hanging out. Lost to Deathwing Knight spam. Deathwing Knights definitely has the capacity to just be like, no, I didn't die. Joke's on you. Nah, I'd live. Nah, I'd win. I rolled a bunch of 4-ups, correct. You're like, okay, man. You got it, buddy. The opposite can happen, but it's tougher. When you back up the good armor save and the good invuln save with damage reduction, definitely makes spikes hurt less. But yeah, I think we'll go ahead and call things there. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today. I actually don't have the event live because I forgot to post it again, but I will be over at Battle for Salvation this weekend. I will post up an event link to that this evening. So come hang out with me over there for that live stream. I'm gonna head down on Friday, and we're gonna stream the whole way through Saturday and Sunday. Big ol' 40k major. I think it's 100 players. But it should be fun over at the Palisades Center in New York. So, yeah, I hope it's gonna be a good time. So please come watch me stream over there. I'm also gonna be live tomorrow evening. We have some games of 40k over on the Twitch channel. I believe that there are 2 games back to back, or something. There's one game scheduled, and there's supposed to be another game scheduled that evening, but nobody's told me what it is yet. So we'll find out, I guess. Stay tuned to the calendar for that. But that should be fun. Yeah, I'm excited for those results to come in. But yeah, so I'll see you tomorrow if anybody is over on the Purple channel watching some TTS 40k. And otherwise, I'll see you on this channel with some IRL 40k on Saturday. So yeah, cheers, everybody. Have a good one. And I'll see you, although the folks in chat at BFS, I'll see you there. Cheers.